Welcome to Realcomm Live, and we're here to talk about state-of-the-art smart buildings case studies. Unfortunately, I have two walking case studies with me today in Neil and Byron, and I've been fortunate to work with them professionally and gotten to know them personally over the years, but notwithstanding that, I'm going to ask them to give a brief introduction and bio of themselves, and then we'll get right into some questions.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that, Tom. My name is Bayron Lopez. I'm the Technology Integration Manager over at Netflix. So I've been in the smart building field for about 10 years now, different providers and service managers on the landlord previously, now on the tenant-occupier side. So excited to talk to you today.
Oh, fantastic. Neil?
Neil Ross, the principal at Predio Technologies, and until recently was the Senior Director of Workplace and Real Estate Technology at Walmart. Like Byron, about 10 years in the smart building space, but probably 20 years before that in technology overall. But I spent time doing smart buildings at Microsoft, and then spent time at Schneider Electric, building digital products and architectures.
Well, what's that book, The 10,000 Hour Rule, says that makes you an expert? So you guys just said 20,000 hours right there. Well, since we're talking about state-of-the-art, I mean, a lot of people here, state-of-the-art changes, of course, and we all went through, convergence was state-of-the-art, then middleware was really cool, and FDD and digital twins, it kind of keeps moving, and stopping just short of AI, because we'll get there, but wonder if you could each just give some feedback on, even just looking at your past year or two, you've done really amazing things. How did you describe state-of-the-art, and did you have to describe it for your work then?
You want to take it first, or?
Sure. So, I was lucky enough to join Walmart at a time when they were building a large campus. A lot of net new buildings with established technology and kind of consistent technology across that part of the portfolio. For me, really kind of the state of the art was to connect all those building systems in so that we could pull data, analyze it, and that data would drive the action that we took around operations, around space design, around space utilization and kind of allocation. Around how we deliver a compelling employee engagement and employee experience through mobile and through workplace systems. If you expand beyond that project and you look across the rest of the portfolio, where you've got buildings that are much older, you've got generations of technology that are not speaking the same language as the current stuff, how do you then bring all of that stuff in, normalize the data, aggregate it in one place so that you can prioritize work? To me, that was the state of the art. As we started to layer in AI there as well, that opens up a whole new set of possibilities around how you analyze telemetry type data, how you analyze qualitative data through surveys and employee engagement. It adds a new nuance to that state of the art.
Yeah, and I think for us, state of the art, previously being with the landlord, was being able to provide the tenant all the functionality and services they needed to occupy the space, right? So as a landlord, my state of the art was not for my internal employees, but it was really, how do we better sign a lease? How do we provide a tenant with better product and a service that they can feel happy of? We're signing a lease for 10, 15 years, right? So state of the art was a little bit different. Yeah. But now with my current employer, where I'm looking at employee services, we're now looking at how do we make my employees and our employees internally happy and serviceable? What are the metrics? What's the feedback? How do we make sure that they're thinking that they're working in a space that is as close to home as possible, but also provides extra amenities, extra services, technology? So I think really state of the art would be subjective to wherever you're representing and how that flexibility happens with the customer that you're facing, whether that's an internal employee or a tenant.
Yeah, so it's neat. I heard sort of the basics that you have to be state of the art, basic connectivity, and then you were getting almost more to outcomes, like I need a happy tenant or a happy employee. And backstage we were talking also about, I heard Neil, you saying something about almost workflow, internal workflows, so you could be connected, but was there something else you think needed to happen in terms of workflow to get outcomes?
I think, you build these systems so that your employees, regardless of where they work within the organization, these systems are supposed to inform and evolve the way that they work. And a lot of times we either focus on the operations or we focus on, the knowledge worker. But a lot of the things that we were doing were to improve the way that our operations would perform, but then also deliver better service and outcomes to the knowledge workers.
Yeah, workflow is important, right? Because when you're starting, think of the space that you're starting at, right? A barren plot of land. How do you take that to a high-rise or to a distributed campuses and all the services that you have to put together in order to have that down user come into the parking lot, into the suite, into their space, and how do you provide all that technology in between? It starts with the workflow at the beginning of us putting shovels in the ground. So that process has to be integrated.
It's funny, the two words I've said the most when people ask about this whole conversation, culture and workflow.
Yeah.
And we've just talked a little bit about workflow, so maybe touching a little bit on the culture, how you guys each were able to or had a hard time working with the other stakeholders and ecosystems. So architects and engineers, internal budget people, IT people, just a little bit about how has that been holding you back, or did that work well, or how did you approach that?
I think for me, in the previous role, it was easier because we did have a mandate to make sure that the ultimate user was the landlord, and we were all going towards the lease. In the new role, it's more about making our employees happy and being a white glove service for that provider, and then understanding that you are maybe hindering a process, but it's not to make it difficult, but it's maybe to make that process better, or you're trying to figure out new technology to be innovative that people have said, look, it's not broken, it's working, but how can we, one of the big things I'm using is repurpose hours. How do we repurpose that employee's hours so that they can be more effective throughout the day with technology or services or automation that we can build into the smart building space?
So maybe it's different whether you're in the real estate business or maybe in the corporate world, those things change. Was that the same for you?
Yeah, and in the enterprise at Walmart, I think the first meeting that I was in with the technology support team, one of the things that I said was, if we're not giving time back to the people in the enterprise, we're building the wrong stuff. So if we're not making it easier and more efficient for them to operate the space, for them to allocate and consume space, for them to engage with amenities within the building or across the campus, and if we're not being consistent in the way that we do that from one site to the next, we're creating friction. So if we can do all these things to remove friction, we're returning time. Time equals value, that gets translated into revenue generation or whatever it is.
And maybe briefly, even though it's in a brief topic, how far, and I'm just going to throw out a few, how far did you go in your case studies or in your strategies even with renewables, DC, influencing budgets, cybersecurity, just how far out were you each able to go typically?
At Kilroy, we were really involved, right? So the organization was structured so that we were able to make those changes both to engineering, to security, to sustainability. So we were also working as a council together, right? So we had the buy-in from all those different teams to be able to push towards a united front.
For all those topics?
For all those topics, right? So technology came through that funnel, right?
Gotcha.
And a funnel is kind of a hard word. I like talking more of it as a conduit. So that's what I'm telling my team. We're a conduit for you to technology. Yeah. We're a service for you to innovate, but we're not going to be that gatekeeper for you.
Yeah. I think, for us,
you had some boundaries in a larger corporate environment. Would you have some boundaries on the topics?
Yeah, I mean, there are always boundaries. There are guardrails and constraints. Your budget and your legal processes and your privacy and data and security and all that stuff. But in a large enterprise like Walmart, those things are they're there to protect the enterprise.
Sure.
They also gave us the opportunity to say to the vendor community, here's some standards that you have to align to for an enterprise like this. But we had some good partners. We were able to get a full digital twin of all of the buildings in that new campus, as well as the part of the portfolio that would persist going forward. So full 3D models, data coming in from operating technologies and building equipment, from sensors that we deployed in the space, and driving that data down and putting it in the hands of the employee who's looking for a room to book or a desk to book. Those types of things, they create value. And when I came in, the digital twin was really kind of like, do we really want to do that? Is there value in it? But there's tremendous value in it.
That was a big state-of-the-art debate. And since we're about out of time, but we must touch on AI, I'm going to ask you to pick one of two things on AI. Are we at a moment in history, or is it a cool technology tool that's going to have a profound impact? moment in history or just a tech tool?
I think that it's a moment in history. You know, I think that it's about to accelerate us forward.
Yeah, I think so as well. If we are able to leverage it correctly. I think that's the big caveat. You don't expect it to do all your work for you. It's a tool that you'll be able to use, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket for it.
So next year when we have this conversation, state of the art is going to be a little bit different since you both said number one. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank
Fantastic.
Thanks, Tom.
And I would encourage anybody out there to please get in touch with these guys and learn more about their journey. And you can learn a lot from them. Thanks for being here.